In a quaint little village, nestled between rolling green hills and a sparkling river, lived a painter named Arthur. His studio, a cozy loft overlooking the town square, was a wonderland of colors. Canvases leaned against walls, each a vibrant explosion of life, and the air was thick with the pleasant scent of oil paint and turpentine. Arthur was more than just a painter. He was a magician with a brush. He could capture the fiery blush of a sunset, the gentle dew on a spider's web, and the joyful twinkle in a child's eye. People from all over would travel to his village, just to get a glimpse of his work, to own a piece of his magic. His paintings sold for fortunes, and his name was whispered with reverence in the grandest art galleries. He had fame, he had wealth, he had everything an artist could ever dream of. But as the seasons turned, a strange and subtle change began to creep into Arthur's world. One crisp autumn morning, as he stood before a fresh canvas, ready to paint the golden leaves dancing in the wind, he reached for his cadmium yellow. But when he squeezed the tube, a dull, lifeless grey oozed out. Confused, he tried his cerulean blue to capture the sky, but again, only grey. His crimson, his emerald, his violet, all of them, every single tube, had turned to a monotonous, soulless grey. Panic seized him. He rushed to the art supply store, buying every colour imaginable, but the moment they entered his studio, they too lost their vibrancy, succumbing to the strange grey curse. His world, once a symphony of colour, was now muted, a silent film of shades of grey. He could still see the colours of the world outside his window, the brilliant red of a ladybug, the deep green of the moss on the old stone. All but his hands, his tools, the very extension of his soul, could no longer replicate them. Despair became his unwelcome companion. He stopped painting. The once lively studio fell silent, dust gathering on his easels and canvases. The light that once danced in his eyes was replaced by a hollow emptiness. He tried everything. He consulted scientists who shrugged, mystics who offered cryptic advice, and doctors who found nothing wrong with his eyes. His fame began to fade, the stream of visitors dwindled to a trickle, and his fortune, once vast, began to shrink as he poured it into finding a cure that didn't exist. He became a recluse, a ghost haunting the memory of the great artist he once was. The man who had given the world so much colour now lived in a world devoid of it. He felt utterly and completely lost. One day, sitting by his window, he watched the village children playing in the square. Their laughter, a sound he hadn't truly heard in years, floated up to him. He saw little Alara, the baker's daughter, trip and scrape her knee. Without a second thought, Arthur rushed downstairs. He found Alara crying, a small cut on her knee. He gently cleaned the scrape, telling her a silly story about a clumsy squirrel who always forgot where he buried his nuts. Soon, her tears turned into giggles. As he helped her up, she looked at him with her big, trusting eyes, and said, "Thank you, Mr. Arthur, you're very kind." And in that simple, heartfelt moment, something flickered within him. He saw a tiny, almost imperceptible spark of warmth in the grey world around him. It was fleeting, but it was there. Intrigued, Arthur started spending more time in the village. He helped the elderly Mrs. Gable carry her groceries, fixed the wobbly fence for the carpenter, and read stories to the children at the local library. He didn't do it for praise or recognition. He did it because it felt right. Each small act of kindness, each shared smile, each word of gratitude was like a tiny drop of colour being added back into his perception. He began to notice the subtle hues returning. When he helped the gardener, he saw a faint hint of green in the leaves. When he shared a loaf of bread with a hungry traveller, he perceived a warm, golden-brown hue in the crust. These weren't the brilliant, saturated colors of his past, but they were real, and they were beautiful. He wasn't just seeing color, he was feeling it. It wasn't on a canvas, it was in the connections he was making with the people around him. One sunny afternoon, he found himself back in his dusty studio. He didn't feel the old pressure to create a masterpiece. Instead, he simply picked up a brush. He looked out at the village, at the people living their lives, and he began to paint. He didn't reach for his old tubes of paint. He dipped his brush into a jar of plain water and began to paint on a piece of dried wood. He painted the memory of Illyris Giggle, the warmth of Mrs. Gable's thank you, the camaraderie of working beside the carpenter. As he painted, a miracle unfolded. The water on the wood wasn't colorless. It bloomed with the softest, most beautiful colors he had ever seen. A gentle pink for Ilara's smiling cheek, a warm ochre for the shared bread, a deep, comforting blue for the quiet moments of connection. His studio was once again filled with color, but this time it was different. It wasn't the loud, demanding color of fame and ambition. It was the gentle, profound color of happiness, kindness, and love. Arthur realized his gift had never truly been about the pigments in a tube. The magic wasn't in his hands, but in his heart. The colors he had lost were the colors of ego and external validation. The colors he had found were the colors of genuine human connection, the vibrant hues of a life lived with purpose and compassion. He never regained his old fame, and his paintings no longer sold for fortunes. But Arthur, the painter who had lost his colors, had finally found true happiness. He continued to paint, not for galleries or critics, but for his village, for his friends, for himself. And his life, once a study in gray, became his greatest masterpiece, full of the most radiant colors imaginable. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey today. If this story touched your heart, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel for more stories that explore the beauty of the human spirit. Your support means the world. Until next time, remember that the most vibrant colors in life are often found not in what we get, but in what we give. Take care and stay colorful.